I'm Nicole Papiano from Your Instructional Designer, and I'm here today with Deadra Welcome. Deadra, can you tell me a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. I am the founder and CEO of Concerning Learning LLC, which is a training consulting firm. So we help make learning extraordinary for our participants in various ways. So training is just one, but we design, develop, and deliver extraordinary learning events and activities. So that is it in a nutshell.
That's really cool. So CEO, that's like a really big deal. That means you've gotten to the top of the L&D game. How did you get there? What happened along the way?
Wow. So it's been a journey. I'm an accidental trainer, so I didn't like graduate from college and said, "Hey, I want to be a trainer." It was more of how do I get a job after I graduate from college. So I was in the federal government, and the training coordinator was retiring.
Hmm.
So I was like, "Oh yeah, well I'll do that," and didn't know what that was. And so I started as a training coordinator, and then I got into instructional design. Also, I did training program management before I did instructional design. So I got thrown into instructional design and literally thrown in after 9/11.
Oh, wow.
I was in aviation security and they needed an additional instructional designer to work on the first iteration of the screener training right after 9/11. So that was my go to training and come back and, hey, you get the new module that's never been developed. So that was a great way to learn and experience, firsthand, how do you design training. So that's how I got into it. And from there was in it in the federal government in various roles. And in 2011, while I was still in the government, started my business and grew it slowly from 2011 to 2018, which is when I took the big leap and became a full-time consultant.
That's so cool. Well, also, I just want to point out, I don't meet that many instructional designers who've worked on that FAA and TSA screening stuff. So it's kind of nice to meet the person who started it so I could redo it years later.
Yes. Yes.
That's awesome. So, how did you decide that you were ready to make that transition? Like, what made you want to take that jump?
Honestly, just being not unfulfilled at work in the 9 to 5.
Mhm.
I was tired of asking for permission to do quality work. And I was like, I can't do this forever. So let me start my business. And the business was inactive for a year and a half. Finally got a client and just grew it slowly. So whenever I had my lowest points in my 9 to 5 is when I channeled that energy and put more into my business. Went through branding and website design and all that when I was just like, I can't do this anymore. And then eventually it was more challenging to do client work and work a 9 to 5 because I was using up all my leave to go do client work. And I just got so frustrated. I said, forget it. Why am I spending all that energy in the government when I can actually make a greater impact outside of the government? So
Totally. And
that's
by
how
your own rules, right?
yep, I own my day.
That's cool. I love that. And, so now you're in this position where you get to shape the learning and you're working with people. So you've seen kind of the whole industry, it sounds like. You've seen government, you've seen corporate, you've seen it from the trainer all the way up to, doing the sales and all that stuff. What would you say to somebody, let's say they want to work for you? Like, what are you looking for in a great, extraordinary learning experience?
I'm looking for someone who is passionate about learning just like I am. That's it.
That's it. That's all it takes to make great learning.
I think it starts there. Parts of it in there. Um, I think when you have a passion for learning, you're teachable, you're coachable, you go after opportunities, you're proactive. So just having that passion for learning tells me a lot about you.
I love that. So, you've clearly got this passion and you've worked on a lot of different things. I'm wondering, is there something that you worked on, even if whether it's your business or just somewhere along the journey, like, is there something that you were just so excited to work on? Maybe it was like your favorite project, even if it wasn't the best. Was there like a favorite?
Um, Actually, yes. Now, I don't know if I've ever really thought of it, but I think when I was working on the mentoring program for Department of Energy, um, I was promised a budget. The budget never happened. And at that point, I was just an instructional designer. I had a fear. I was terrified of standing in front of people and delivering training. So that was
Mhm.
something that I was like, I'm not doing it ever. And now I have this mentoring program with 240 people in it that I've designed and developed. Now, who's going to deliver it? Because now I don't have a budget.
Ah,
So, because of that, I had to deliver the training that I developed, or else they wouldn't have any opportunities to grow in the program. And that's when I fell in love with facilitating learning.
you had a great impact, I'm sure, because those are people who otherwise wouldn't have ever gotten that experience, right?
I believe so. Of course, in government, sometimes it's challenging to evaluate the impact of your work. But based on the feedback, and because I didn't start with 240 people,
Right.
it was like 100 and about 180 or so, and they would fluctuate. And so I grew it from that. So I'm assuming by word of mouth and by I would put flyers on the lunchroom tables, the little table tents, and I was actively marketing the program. We went through rebranding, and it became one of the best practices in the federal government. And it's still on their wiki of best practices.
That's amazing. Like, really.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting, because you don't hear this all the time, especially when you're working from the instructional designer spot, but like you talked about marketing the course, and that's really cool. So it sounds like at the time you were like boots on the ground, putting flyers out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I did it from I didn't have a team. It was just me. Um no room for any contractor support. So I literally would spend time in the graphics department, and I would give them something, and I was like, okay, make this like really pop. And so they created this brochure from what I gave them. It was called what was it called? The growth mentoring program. So there was a tree, and the colors were like green and brown. And oh yeah, I had like and from there I actually used that material in my business, because it was my intellectual property in terms of coming up with tools for mentor growth and tools for mentee growth. And I mean, the whole program I designed myself, and I didn't have a system to match. So that's when I started doing speed mentoring, pairing up. And it was very fulfilling.
You're a really good problem solver. I mean, if I take nothing else away from that, I think that's one of the biggest things I've taken away.
Yeah. It's when you're challenged with so many roadblocks and barriers, in order for you to be successful, you have to be a problem solver. So I embraced that, and through the years, I used my work in the 9 to 5 as practice for my business.
Really cool. I know you've given me like a ton of gems already, but I do wonder, if there was just like one piece of advice that you could give people who are new to the learning industry or thinking about getting into it, what would that be?
Never stop learning.
Hmm.
Even though we're in the learning business, there are always opportunities to learn. I consider myself an expert in learning. In every trade publication, every article, every webinar that's not too salesy. I am in it to see how can I sharpen my saw and get better at what I do. So I would say just go after every opportunity to learn something new.
Definitely, definitely. I bet your saw is very, very sharp right now.
Well, this has been a year of learning for me, I must say. I'm like, what is going on? Like the challenges in the world, but I have like gotten 3 certifications in like from the first half of the year. So I am now going to apply them for the rest of the year. There's no more, but it's just, there's opportunities when you're faced with challenges. How do you turn that into an opportunity?
Exactly. And I don't usually ask people this, but you're learning, you're solving all these problems, you're managing a company. I have to ask, like, how do you find the time to do these things? Like, how do you manage your time? I would love to know.
So I am locked in on my calendar.
Hmm.
If it's not on my calendar, it doesn't exist.
I
Um,
upset.
yeah, my family will get a calendar invite from me. We need to do this. I need you to help me test Adobe Connect. We have a meeting at 5:00, so you can be in this room so I can test this breakout. I live by a calendar, so I even schedule my time off because I have I have to tell you this. I have a client that we've been working together for a couple of years, and she said, "You seem frazzled." And I said, last week was an extremely busy week. I had 3 classes back to back all week on 3 different topics. And she said, okay, this Friday, you're taking off. And I said, oh, am I? She said, yeah. She started writing down. I said, oh, I know what you're doing. She said, I'm going to remind you that you need to be off on Friday.
That's a good client.
Yes, yes. So I am taking off on Friday. So I just, because I love what I do, it's nothing for me to stay in my office and put on some music and just work, and I do have to force myself. I have to stop so that I don't get burnt out. But then I'll go, in this COVID time, I'll polish my nails or I'll find something. So yeah, it's fun.
So the calendar is the magic
Yeah.
that helps it stay on
Oh,
track.
absolutely. Absolutely.
That's really helpful. It's not something I learned before I had a really good mentor who taught me the power of a calendar, and I'm really thankful for that.
Good.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Well, is there anything else you would want to share with everybody who's watching right now before I let you go?
No, I just really appreciate the opportunity to connect with you and the broader audience, and just I'm rooting for everybody and learning.
Well, thank you so much for being part of the Learning Pro intros, Deidre. I have really enjoyed getting to learn from you and talk to you today, and your experiences are just so cool, and your passion really shines through. And so hopefully you will continue to attract that great energy so that you can do the work you want to be doing.
I appreciate it. And if there's anything else I can do, please let me know.
Sure thing.
All
So for
right.
those of you who are watching right now, there's more information about Deidre in the description box below. Otherwise, we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.